Hello and welcome to NEABcast, a podcast where we welcome guests and have a chat about the story behind who they are and how they've reached their goals. All this is hosted by me, Earswick All Blacks Chairman Jack Stearman, and I want to thank our sponsor, LSQ Garden Landscape Limited. Just hear all their information and visit their info on the bio below. We'll be hosting a number of players, ex-players and people of interest discussing everything rugby league and more as we delve deep into our guests' journeys on how they have become who they are today. If you like what you see, then please donate towards the Earswick All Blacks as we look towards returning to play. All the money raised will help towards the running costs of the club for the next season and onwards, as we've missed out on fundraising throughout the pandemic. You can do this by visiting the link below in our bio. Enjoy! Today I'm going to welcome somebody that we need to give a little respect to, and that's Garry Atkins. So thank you, Garry, for coming on.
Good evening, you're welcome.
First of all, how are you getting on? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad. It's tough all round. Luckily, I can work from home. I work for the council, so I'm working from home. So it's okay. We've got a reasonable garden, so I can do bits out there and we can see the wildlife. So it's not too bad.
By doing bits, do you mean you're keeping fit? Running lengths?
No, I can't run anymore really because of my dodgy knees. So a few years ago, I had a bit of a metal knee reconstruction.
Ooh, nice.
So I mean, I could run, I presume, but they said to me to ensure you get the best lifespan out of it, don't run. So I don't feel any need to run, but I do go. I've got a cycle, indoor cycle, so I still do my little circuits. What Barry Davis gave me 35, 40 years ago.
Well, we'll come on to Barry a bit later on, but that's good to hear that you're still using stuff that you were taught as a wee boy. So a couple of quick fire questions, see if we can surprise you with some answers and we can maybe talk about them. Describe yourself in 3 words.
I'd always like to think I'm a bit of a firm, fair, consistent person.
Firm, fair.
Some people might disagree with that one, but I'd like to think I am.
Interesting answer to that, because Time said that his was consistency last week as well.
To be fair, I totally agree with him. I think when you're looking at, especially playing rugby, when you're looking at being regular in the first team, you've got to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be. You can have an odd dip, you can have an odd bad game, everybody does, but I think you've got to be consistent.
And he was saying that it was the same in his lifestyle as well, how you see plenty of players have the same foods before games and stuff like that, so they know exactly what's going into their body.
Yeah, you have a routine that you stick to day in, day out, when you do certain things at certain times, and especially when you're playing rugby at that level, you've got to make sure that you're refueling at the right times and doing the right things. If you don't, you get caught out pretty quickly.
What's your hidden talent?
Well, I can juggle.
Can you?
Yeah. So, and I can juggle with clubs and rings and actually 4 balls.
Do you know what I might do? I might tell the York City Knights that you can do that. It could be halftime entertainment one day.
Yeah, well, many years ago, working for the council, every year they used to have a medieval day at NEABcast Castle.
Yeah.
And one year their jester let them down, so I stood in as their jester, and I taught people to juggle.
Did you?
Yeah. You can learn pretty easy, to be fair. So I just did little juggling tricks and little juggling exercises with people. A bit of a laugh, really, to be fair. Coming on to rugby, because that was one of the things that I got to do, was I learned to juggle, because before a game on an evening, when everything's going around in your head, I used to juggle, because when you're concentrating on juggling, you can't really get a lot of other things in your head. So it was more of a relaxation technique.
Oh, nice. Never heard of that. That's certainly when you are juggling stuff, or when you're practicing or trying, that is all you're concentrating on. You can't think of anything.
Yeah, that's it. So I found that it relaxed me really. So sometimes, on an evening, just spend half an hour juggling, and it just relaxed me really. Took away from all your worries of the game.
That's a good idea, actually. Favorite food?
Beans on toast.
Yeah.
Baked beans on toast. Yeah, it's interesting because again, when you get to a certain level, you go through dietitians and everything like that. But beans on toast, it didn't mean no harm.
Good.
I still love it now.
Good. Favorite drink?
My most probably a nice coffee. I don't want to advertise or anything, but Betty's do some fantastic coffees.
Picking local.
And I do like a nice coffee, but if I was going out, I'd be a lager drinker.
Yeah, good. Favorite song?
Most probably Give a Little Respect.
Yeah, good. I was gonna ask Aretha if she could introduce you. To be honest,
All right.
A bit of a far-fetched idea, really.
Yeah.
Is that your go-to karaoke song?
You've maybe not heard me do karaoke, so I'm not very good. Going back, you used to have a bit of initiation with certain clubs, and singing was part of it, and I used to dread it, you know what I mean? So I used to try and get other people to sing along with me, but I often got caught out. When you sing something loud that everybody joins in, that's not quite a good trick.
Respect would be quite a good one there, wouldn't it?
It's my favourite band.
Yeah.
Like Erasure.
Favorite binge watch?
Well, I mean, when we got into lockdown, I must confess, I watched the Tiger King while everybody else was watching.
Yeah.
So I struggled with the first few episodes, but once you got into it, it was just quite hilarious, really.
Engrossing, wasn't it?
Yeah. It grew on me, and I got into it actually. I quite enjoyed it again.
Favorite film then?
It's a bit of a strange one, but I like Jim Carrey.
All right, yeah.
And I like The Mask, but it is a bit of a weird sort of film, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but
it's not maybe the best film, but I just like Jim Carrey. I liked him in Liar Liar, and I mean, he's done some bad ones, don't get me wrong. Cable Car was awful, but, in general, I quite like him, and I like The Mask.
Wasn't expecting that, so that's something new. And then I was going to say favourite actor, but obviously Jim Carrey, eh?
Jim Carrey, yeah, I like Jim Carrey, yeah.
Can you cook?
I'll be absolutely honest with you. When I was playing rugby and stuff like that, no.
Yeah.
But since I've retired and you have a little bit more time, I do a bit actually, yeah.
Nice, good.
So that's what I'm saying. Rugby days, my favourite, my signature meal was just beans on toast. So that was it.
Did you ever get it wrong?
Beans on toast?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can make the toast a little bit crusty, but no, you can't go wrong with beans.
Well, one of them was can you sing? You've told me you can't, so that's good. Your favourite place?
I would actually say most probably Rome.
Rome.
Yeah, I loved Rome. I'd go back again to Rome. It's just a fantastic place. I like the old buildings and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Really, really nice place.
What's your favourite? What's your first job?
My first job. I used to work in York for a company called York Removals. I was what the class as a removal porter, so I used to move people from house to house.
Nice. And if you could do anything, what would it be?
If I could do anything, wow. Don't know really. Yeah, good question. I mean, if I had a secret power, I'd maybe like to be invisible.
Oh yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
So then you could go around and see what people are saying about you.
I was gonna say be a fly on the wall instead. Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything I really want to do.
Hey, it gives you something to think about. Maybe you can come back.
I mean, I would like to play a musical instrument, but I'm just pretty useless. You know, I got guitar and tried that, and I'm pretty useless. And we got a piano in lockdown, and I'm trying little bits of that, but I'm pretty useless.
Is that because your attention span? Because the reason I asked that is because obviously you got into juggling, and juggling you said takes half an hour here and there.
Yeah.
Surely that'd be the same for a musical instrument, or is it just something you don't enjoy as much? You don't find that by yourself?
I would enjoy it, but I'm just not sure. I think in life, some people are really musical.
Yeah.
And some people might be really sporty.
Yeah.
Most probably say I'm more sporty than musical, but I like to have a little dabble, and I do like music in that sense. So I think I would like to play a musical instrument, but I'm pretty useless.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Well, unless someone wants the tambourine or something like that, or the triangle.
Triangle. I'd do that out of tune as well, to be honest. Best bit of advice you've ever been given?
I couldn't put my finger on any single advice. For me, obviously, Barry was a fantastic driving force in relation to rugby. And I remember him being really solid on defence.
Yeah.
And once he said, if we get our defence right, they don't score.
Yeah.
That means we don't lose.
Correct.
You know, and it was sort of like, yeah, you work on them little bits. They don't score, we don't lose. So
I'll come on to that again a bit later about Barry, but it's interesting how such a simple statement said by, maybe just a random person, he said that to you in the street or whatever. You take nothing from it, but coming from someone like who's influential like Barry Davies, it makes a big difference because you know what he's trying to say.
Yeah, definitely.
And you take it on board, and I think that makes, if it comes from somebody that influences you, it makes a huge difference to you as a person, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What are you most scared of? Like, for example, not like going deep, but for example, a spider runs across here, a big spider, I'd be like, wow, get out.
It's something that over the years you get asked about. Are you scared about getting up and talking in front of people and stuff like that? Yeah. The thing that really sort of, and I know it sets my heart going, is going over a railway line.
Oh, is it?
When you're in a car, and you go over a railway line, I can always feel myself getting a bit twitchy.
Interesting. That never heard that one before. I understand why. But yeah,
for some reason it's just something I can stand up in front of people talking and things like that. It's never bothered me. But going over a level crossing in your car, I just can feel myself getting twitchy.
You've been watching too many scary films. And then
I would say that I don't go out of my way not to go over one.
But you just get a twitch.
But if I go over one, I'm always a little bit, thinking a train's going to come.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And then finally, on the quickfire, what is your best asset?
I would most probably think that people think I'm quite a solid sort of person.
Yeah.
You can rely on me.
Yeah. Reliability, yeah. Like that. Okay then, so on to a few more questions about you then. Let's start with the book then. Give a Little Respect. Where does it come from? I have a feeling it hints at something you mentioned earlier, but
yeah, well, I mean, the whole idea about this book was, in lockdown, I thought I'll just put my memoirs together of my career, and it was really just for family and friends and stuff like that. It got a little bit, because when I put something on Facebook, I got quite a few of people who used to play in the same team as me and things like that. So obviously I set it out, but when I went through the book, I was trying to highlight some certain things that happened where you should give a little respect.
Yeah.
From me as well, when I played rugby union and I didn't give a little respect to somebody who then ended up smashing me, you know. So it was a little bit of a dual thing, but then the title came from my favourite group, which is Erasure.
Yeah.
And Give a Little Respect is the Hull Kingston Rovers song.
Yeah.
So Hull Kingston Rovers adopted that song a few years ago when they were in the Challenge Cup semi-final against Warrington, and Warrington didn't really give them any respect. Then they ended up winning, and so Give a Little Respect became their song.
Yeah.
But also, and one thing that people maybe don't realise, and I don't know if you realise when you read it, but every chapter is an Erasure song.
Before my time, Garry.
so you know, you've got Stop, Drama, World Be Gone, Am I Right, Sometimes, So the Story Goes, Start. So every chapter is actually the song title of Erasure.
Oh, nice. No, I didn't notice that.
So when I did it, I've tried to link it in, if you like, to them different chapters and them different themes. So.
My thing about the book is, obviously, you said it was a lockdown project, and a lot of people enjoy reading it, obviously, when you've done it. And did you do it? I suppose the question is, why did you do it? And did you do it for you more than anything to correlate your career, or did you do it to let people know about your career about rugby?
Just before lockdown, we came over to a Christmas fair at York Racecourse. I must admit, it was most probably the best Christmas fair we've been to. It was fantastic, loved it. And as we was walking around, there was a lady who did your book. So Sarah said at the time, she says, it'd be nice for you to put down some memoirs, mainly for the kids and stuff, so that later on in life they can realise what I actually did. And I thought, oh, that'd be nice. So we took her card. She did your book, 5,000 words for X amount of pounds. So we took a card and I thought, oh, I'll look into that. And then obviously when March, April came and we went into lockdown, I thought, right, I'll start jotting some stuff down and then I'll get in touch. Unfortunately, 25,000 words later, I thought, ooh, she's not going to do my book. So then I got in touch with, I don't know if you remember him, Peter Smith. He used to be the reporter for York. He's now the Yorkshire Evening Post reporter. Okay. He does Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah.
So I've seen him a few times in the past and talked to him when we've been to Leeds Rhinos. So I sent him an email. He'd give me a bit of direction. Got in touch with somebody who'll give me a few tips. And then basically I just did it myself.
Brilliant.
That was the idea. And then you just go online and get a book printing company who'll print it for you. So it was really for that. But I must admit, I found it quite enjoyable, to be fair. It was nice to go through paper cuttings and things like that and put it into some sort of format.
So
put most things in I'd like to put in. I had to leave some things out just in case.
I bet. But did you, so we said paper cuttings, did you keep a lot of your paper cuttings then, or?
No, it's a weird one, and it's most probably one bit of advice I'd give to players who are playing at that level now, is keep stuff. Because I think that's maybe one of my biggest regrets is you don't keep stuff. And you give everything away. So any shirts I got, I've got very little really. I give most of my stuff away. But some of the paper cuttings that I did keep, and my uncle was very good. He gave me some stuff what he's been keeping, because he follows York. He's followed York for years and years and years. So he gave me some stuff to put in it and things like that. But yeah, didn't keep enough really.
I think you're right. I've got a little jar myself. Obviously nowhere near the amount of stuff that you probably could have kept and stuff like that. But I think you've got to savor the moment that you're in that career, because it's such a short career, isn't it? And maybe
it is, yeah. And it's only really when you look back
Mhm.
and you think, I think I should have kept that, you know. And to be fair, at the time, you give things to supporters or you give things to auctions and things, and you do it for the right reason.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you sort of think, oh, maybe I should have kept that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know that. So obviously you said that you did it, you know, for yourself and to document what you did for your kids and stuff like that. And then obviously it took a bit of a steamroll forward, I suppose, more than anything, with people on Facebook wanting it. And then, you know, you were kind enough to drop it off. And, you know, my dad was like, some strange bloke came to my door and he was trying to put something through the letterbox. And I said, Dad, don't worry about that. No problems. And it was a really, really enjoyable read. But you said you weren't asking for any money for the book, but instead giving it towards the charity. Talk us through how you got to that charity, the meningitis research.
Yeah, well, obviously it was about AD, who everybody All Blacks knows AD, fantastic guy. I sort of became friends with him more towards the end, if you like.
Yeah.
Because obviously we drifted away from the All Blacks in that sense. But obviously he was a lead supporter and would meet up, and every Christmas he'd come over here and would go out for a beer and stuff like that. So became friendly towards the end. And he always used to pester me to play rugby again. He used to keep saying to me, put your boots on and come and play. And I never would. And then obviously when he tragically died, we did the last game.
Yeah.
Which I remembered why I retired, because I was old and decrepit and falling to pieces. So, but then obviously with the book, it was more about just putting my memoirs together so that the kids can know later on in life, maybe if they get kids and stuff like that, they can show it. And also partly because my mum suffered with dementia, and so she passed away. And rugby's been quite prominent recently with head injuries. I've been concussed a few times, sometimes quite badly.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I do go later on that other way, then there's something there that might trigger something we don't know. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to jot it all down. It did snowball a little bit with other people wanting the book. And again, that's why I never wanted to sell it. It's never been for sale.
Yeah.
So that's why I just said to people, if you want one, I'll get you one, and you donate to meningitis research, whatever you feel it's worth. You know what I mean? So and I hope it comes through in the book. I never do anything for money.
Yeah.
I've never been a money person, and you know, obviously you need money to get by and pay your bills and things like that. But it wasn't never about money. It was more about memories really than anything else. So I was quite happy to send a copy out to people if they donated to meningitis. Yeah. In a way, it was my contribution to meningitis in that sense.
Amazing. No, brilliant. I thought it was a fantastic way to go about it, and you know, raising a lot of money for charity through that way, for something that you enjoy doing, and like you say, stuff for you later in life. I think it's amazing. And it's still available now, the book?
If I would say that if people are watching this and they would like a copy, it might not be that interesting because it's mainly just about me. But it is about what I've done at York, Castleford, Hull Kingston Rovers, and brief spell at Halifax. So it is about my career and the things I've done. If people do want it, I'm quite happy to send them a copy. But what I would say is if they give a donation to Earswick All Blacks, then I'll send one on. So I mean, I don't know how to go about giving a donation to Earswick All Blacks.
Yeah, there's a link on the bio underneath this, and they can just send it to PayPal for news at NEABcast with a name, and obviously they can put Garry Atkins' book on there as well. And
So if people want to commit something through Earswick All Blacks, And if you get in touch with me, I'll post them a book out, not a problem.
Amazing, brilliant. Thank you very much for that. On the book then, was it good for you as a person to write the book and reflect on your rugby career? And what was it like receiving all the comments from previous teammates and coaches where it's hard to take niceties at times, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a weird one because, I mean, it was never, I mean, yes, the book's about me, don't get me wrong, but it was never really about me in that sense. I didn't want people to, I didn't think people would want to read it. But I must admit, I have had some really nice comments of some people saying that they found it honest, down to earth, easy to read. You know, it's not a massive novel. It's only 35, 40,000 words. You can read it in half a day or something, you know what I mean? And well, I think it flows quite well, and it shows you a little bit about certain things. There is a few funny things in there, if you like. And it was interesting because somebody said, I like your honesty in it. Because I think I've been as honest as I can be.
Yeah.
There's obviously some things you can't put in.
Agreed.
I'll be honest with you, when I found out that people wanted it, I did take some things out.
Did you?
Yeah. I changed it because I don't want it to be somebody to come knocking on my door. And I also didn't want to get people into trouble. You know?
Of course, yeah. Behind closed doors, them ones.
Yeah, there's some things that maybe shouldn't be in print.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely. So, being from York, what was it like signing for them at the time?
You know, I'll be totally honest with you. Being from York, I mean, we go watch Leeds now. I'm quite a big Leeds supporter. Although we do come over to York because they play on different days, so that's quite good. Yeah. But as a kid, I followed York everywhere, and the only team I ever wanted to play for was York, and that was it.
I don't know if it was like me as well. Like I obviously had a brief stint away from York at the time as well, and it just felt completely different to playing for York than it did when I was at Gateshead. What was it like playing for Hull KR, Halifax, Castleford? When you're away from the town, or because it was a profession, is it a job?
Yeah, I mean, times when I started playing in 1986, times were different. You had a job and you played rugby. So you worked, if you like, your 9 to 5 job, straight out to training, game day, Sunday. So it was pretty tough in a sense, you know. You have very little time for anything else because you're training every night.
Yeah.
Saturday mornings you train, and then Sundays you'd have your game, and then it'd be back to work Monday and you're gone. So it was difficult, and it was easier at York because I lived in York at the time. But when I went to Cass, loved it. I had a brief loan spell at Halifax, again, loved it. And I had a fantastic time at Hull Kingston Rovers. You know, most probably out of it all, Hull Kingston Rovers was one of the best times. You know, we had a great setup. We did well. I won things. You know, we won the division and all that sort of stuff. So that helps, I suppose. But it's a weird one because you sort of think, what am I going to do with my time when I finish? But you do find a way of filling it because, you know, you go to work, and like at Hull, when I was at Rovers, you'd go to work at 7:30 in the morning. I'd be home at 4:30. I'd be in, just pick up my kit bag, and I'd be out at 5. Then you won't get in till 10:30 at night. Then you're in bed, and then the same again tomorrow. And that's what you did.
So it sounds like it was tough. Would you change it?
No.
That's the one thing that you want to get out of it, definitely.
And again, you know, one thing that I said it in my book towards the end. If somebody said to me, when you're in your 50s, you're going to struggle to lift stuff above your head. You're going to struggle to get out of bed on a morning. Your knees are going to be creaking. And, you know, you're not in the best condition in that sense. Would you do it again? Too right, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. I've met some in rugby. What you do meet is fantastic people, and they're mates for life, and they are. You know, Paul Mulleran, who was the Aussie at York at the time, lives in Australia. About 8 or 9 years ago, I think. Got in touch with him via his wife and stuff like that because we went over to Australia, met up with him, and it was just like yesterday in a sense. You know, it was just natural. You know, and that's what you do. You might not see people from 1 year to the next. When you meet up, it's just like natural. You know, you do have one common denominator, rugby. So you've got plenty to talk about. But again, there is all other things come into that conversation. And, you know, when you put on a shirt with somebody in the same team, you do get that bond. Because, you know, and again, that was a little bit about the give a little bit of respect. Anybody who puts a shirt on is going out there to have a bit of a go. Because sometimes you hear it in crowds where you hear them shouting, oh, he's soft, oh, he's weak, it's him. Well, you put a shirt on and you go out there. It's not easy.
I think the thing about rugby as well is you can get so many different people from different walks of life, i.e. do different jobs, been brought up differently, different education, and you all, particularly for amateur, you're all out on a Saturday night after winning, losing, drawing, having a drink and having a good time. And it's amazing how sport can bring so many different people together and they can stick together as well.
Yeah. And the great thing about rugby is, to an extent, everybody is in a similar position because everybody will have knocked on.
Yeah.
Everybody will have missed a tackle. Everybody will have dropped a high ball.
Yeah.
Everybody will have lost a game. Mm-hmm. Everybody will at some stage win a game. You know, so we've all been there in that sense. We've all had good times. We've all had bad times as well. But as a team, you learn to get through them together, and that's what brings you closer together as a team.
And that kind of helps you as an individual as well.
Yeah, definitely.
To achieve your life goals. I mean, obviously, you said about you lose together, and rugby league is tough and stuff like that. And we're going to come on to a bit of that a bit later on. But just about the highs of rugby league, Wembley. Played there a couple of times.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough to play there as an under-11.
Yeah,
remember 1978. We played a league, and sort of back then, Wembley was the main rugby league event, you know, and the crowd when we walked out, and I've got a picture of me walking out. There was 90,000 people when we walked out, because basically it was packed.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest, you don't really notice it that much.
No.
You go out to play a game of rugby, you know, the crowd's slightly insignificant. The event in itself is amazing, you know. And that was the old Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And then I was lucky enough to go with Wilkins Rovers in the Silk Plate final. Mm-hmm. So I did go with Cass when Cass got there, but I was never in the team.
Yeah.
I just had a bit of a. We went up as the A team, if you like, and enjoyed the pie.
It's nice to have that toe in the water going with Cass. Obviously, playing there as a kid was a dream anyway, even under 11s. I remember reading the book about being the talk of the town, but I'll leave that story out for people to read. But when you go with Cass and you're on the edge of the first team and you're there or thereabouts and you see that experience, that makes you hungry to achieve it yourself, surely, yeah?
Yeah. Because, it sort of makes you hungry just to want to be the best you can be. Yeah. You know, that's one thing I would always say to people. Just be the best you can be. You know, not everybody's going to be at the top, because not everybody can be at the top. But be the best you can be and give it a go. Don't have any regrets when you get old to sit there and say, I wish I'd have done that, or I wish I'd have done that. Give it your best shot.
Yeah. And Time said it perfect last week. You know, you give it 100%, nobody can send him off from you.
That's it. You can't, you know, and that's what links to the consistency in that sense. So, if you are consistent, you're going to be giving 100% every week.
Yeah,
you know.
100%. And obviously talking about time and consistency, stuff like that. While you were at Cass, linking on from podcast to podcast, you played with your dad. Was he as good as everyone said he was?
He was. He was sort of before full professionalism came in, if you like.
Yeah.
He was an immense athlete. He was 100% professional. Most probably a little bit more professional ahead of his time in that sense.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll never forget, we had a Christmas party thing, as you do, a fancy dress party thing, and he came as a Roman gladiator, and he was a Roman gladiator in that sense, you know what I mean? So, yeah, he was very good. I mean, you don't play at the top level consistently like he did and play for New Zealand like he, if you were very good.
Yes, absolutely.
He was. And to cap that, he's a real nice guy. But to be fair, I actually think that most people I've come across in rugby are very nice people.
I agree with you 100%.
Good people to get along with. You can have a good laugh. You can have a good crack and mess about and stuff like that. You know, so it would be harder for me to say who wasn't a nice person.
Yeah.
Who is, because everybody I've come across, and even some of the people that I had some disagreements with, like it was common knowledge, I didn't necessarily get along great with Garry Stevens at the time when he was coach.
Yeah.
But since then, afterwards, I did a bit of reflection, and I've had a chat with Garry on a few occasions. And again, I think it was because when we were at York, we weren't necessarily as professional as we should have been.
Yeah.
Garry came in as a Great Britain international, as a top level player, and he tried to bring that professionalism in. And some of us, me included, maybe didn't see how it was supposed to all fit into place.
You learn from them experiences, though.
And you know, we've had chats about it since. You know, I actually think that he didn't necessarily like me. He thought that I didn't like him. You know, but we've had good chats since, and it's just because we didn't communicate very well at that time, and also he was ahead of the game in relation to where we were.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see that, but he was, you know, I mean, well, he was a fantastic player as well, but he was a little bit more advanced than some of us. And to be fair, I mean, I think for me personally, at a certain stage in my career, I maybe didn't listen as good as I should have listened.
Yeah. And do you wish you'd, and this resonates really from rugby players from the age of 6 onwards, I suppose, when you start the game. When you say you didn't listen as much as you should have done, would that be one of your advice towards the generation, no matter what age?
Towards the end of so most probably when I was 28, 29, I then went and did my coaching badges because I wanted to try and understand what a coach was getting across to me. I'd most probably say to players, do that earlier, because then it gives you a better understanding of what people are trying to do. And yeah, sometimes you just don't listen. And I was one of them. I didn't really listen because you think you know it all to some extent, as you do as a younger person. Yeah, you think you know it, you think you've been there, but you haven't. So it would be a bit of a tip, is try and understand what your coach is trying to get across to you.
I like that, trying to understand what and why the coach is getting it across to you.
Yeah.
No, I like that a lot. So going back to juniors and stuff like that, Earswick All Blacks probably weren't Earswick All Blacks when you started playing for them.
I go back to, we started at Dunnington.
Yeah.
So we started at Dunnington with Barry Davis and Terry Bellwood.
Yeah.
And then we couldn't stay at Dunnington because Dunnington was really a cricket environment.
Yeah.
But don't think they were too happy about us running over the cricket wicket and things like that. So it was time to move on. So then we moved out and we did a bit on the NEABcast for a while. And then Earswick All Blacks was formed with Rippon as well was involved, and a few others. So,
and so you carried on playing down there. And I'm going to ask you the question, but I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is going to be. Who was your biggest influence?
oh, Barry Davies, definitely. Yeah, I mean Barry was just the ultimate rugby person. You know, I mean, he epitomises rugby league, full stop. Got fantastic respect for Barry. Without him, I wouldn't have done anything in rugby, that is for sure. And you need people like Barry involved in a club to keep people going. Yeah, he was the number one. There was other people. Dave Rippon was very influential as well. And again, Dave was an ex-pro, and he became my boss as well, because I went and started working for William Birch and Sons.
Yeah.
So that was quite good as well, because sometimes I needed some time off, and he understood where I came from because he played as well. So Dave was very influential as well, and helped out. And both of them at the time guided me, if you like. Barry got me some trials down at Featherstone, and Hunslet, and different places like that. So, and then Dave helped out, pushed me in the direction towards York. So yeah, they were both very, very influential and great people. But again, the rugby people out there, so we're going to be.
And do you still keep an eye out on what we're doing as a club, Earswick All Blacks?
Yeah, try and keep in contact with a few of the older stalwarts that are still there, Steve Ripley and Bargy.
Yeah, good. And how important was your experience with the community club in making you the person you are today? Or do you say it was rugby league as a whole?
I actually think that your younger days, if you like, are definitely the foundation to where you're going to be. So they will give you that structure, that discipline. Like I said, and again, it's where you want to take it.
Yeah.
Because Barry give me a little home circuit to do, because basically at that time we just used to train on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night, and he gave me a little home circuit. It was just basically on about core strength. That's all it is. Your own body weight, press ups, sit ups, squats, that type of thing. That I still do today. It gives you that structure, and I used to do them on a Monday night, a Wednesday night, a Friday night, go for runs, because training at the club is important for your rugby progression. You need to train outside of it for your fitness progression, because a club cannot give you the fitness you need when they're trying to do tackling, ball handling, drills, skills, positional sets and things like that. You can't do that on a Tuesday and a Thursday night in them 2 hours. You need to train physically outside, whether that, running, weights, circuits, whatever it may be.
I agree with you. Like you're there for a small amount of time, and your time there, once we focus on rugby, you should focus on your fitness. And it goes back to that consistency you mentioned. Ari, he gave you those workouts to do. You did them every Monday, Wednesday, Friday when you weren't at training, and then training Tuesday, Thursday, and you kept consistent throughout it, and it got you to achieve some outstanding goals and achievements.
Yeah, I mean, I often say that I wasn't the biggest at the club. I wasn't the best tackler by far. I wasn't the strongest at the club. I wasn't the toughest at the club, but I tried to be the fittest.
Yeah.
Because if you can find something that you can do, and you can do it to the best, then it's going to give you a good shot. So, I look at the team that we had at All Blacks. We had some fantastic players, and I was not the best. I could hold my hands there, that is for sure. Most probably I've achieved most out of them, that team. Who knows? You need to get a little bit lucky. You need to be in the right places at the right time. You need to have some nice people around you, if you like, at a certain time. So you do need a little bit of luck. And I've had some luck, but sometimes you make your own luck. And you make your own luck by being in the right place at the right time. And that's by working out.
Yeah.
And you gotta, so when people are enjoying parties and things like that, or going out on a Friday night, I'd be training. you know. And again, I had a quite good ability to. It was more mental to me. I knew what I needed to do, and I'd go and do it. And I remember when I was studying sports science, the guy said to me, he said, "How do you do that?" And I said, "I don't know really. I just mentally, I've got to beat myself. I don't need to beat anybody else.
Yeah.
I just need to beat myself." So I used to do a run from home. I think it was about 7 miles, and I timed myself, and I had to beat myself every time. And that's the way you do it, you know. So you time yourself, and I'd know where I was on each mile, and I knew what I needed to do that extra little bit more. And every time, I went faster. Every time, you know, I was never competing against someone else at the club. I was only competing against myself. I wanted to beat myself every time, because that way you get better. Don't worry about what other people are doing in that sense. You concentrate on what you're doing to make yourself better.
That's all you can do. You're in control of you, aren't you?
And that's it. And not, like I said a bit earlier, not everybody is going to achieve certain things, because they can't. And it would be impossible. But as long as you achieve what you can achieve and you give it your best shot, if when you get a little bit older and decrepit like we are, you can sit there and say, "I give it a good shot, actually.
Yeah.
I did all right."
Yeah, that's it.
You can be happy with that.
Of course you can. Staying involved with rugby league after you finish playing, obviously you got coaching badge and stuff like that. You are, am I right in saying, involved with Harrogate Fire Ants or have you been helping them set up?
Yeah, just been helping them out more on a consultancy basis. I met the guy when they started up Harrogate Nights, and stuff. So before the pandemic and that lot, so we met in a local pub, and people used to go there, and a few York players used to come over and say a few pieces and stuff like that. So I just met him there, and he wanted to start this team up over here. First of all, I just said, "You're not expecting me to do any playing or anything like that, because it ain't happening." And he said, "No, I just want to on a consultancy." But unfortunately, it's been at the wrong time.
Yeah, of course.
COVID's kicked in, and we haven't really been able to do anything.
Yeah, I've been having discussions with Stu there as well, and I think that if you've got the structure correct, there's no reason why it can't kick off out there.
No.
I think having you on board as well with some of the profiles will be really good for them anyway. So, a couple more questions then. Do you think you could play in today's game?
It's interesting, because I would like to think I could.
Yeah.
But my game was more with the ball. It was more about deception and bringing backs into play, doing moves, run rounds, drop-offs, inside balls, and that sort of stuff. I don't think there's that much in the game now.
No.
Not as much as there used to be. It's much more of a physical game now, where mistakes are made when players become tired because they've been tackling too much. So it's a part of the game that I miss.
Yeah.
Because the skill element is not as good as it used to be. The physicality is much better than it used to be.
Interesting.
So the players are bigger, faster, stronger, and some of them are quite daunting in that sense. Although there was big players, get me wrong, when we was playing, you know. But my game was more about the skill set of playing with the ball.
Well, I think someone said that you've got the greatest dummy that they've ever seen.
That's right, yeah. And again, you know, people say they could never understand how I could break any defence. So it would be interesting to see now, would I be able to break these defences?
Now there's more structure.
Now there's more, it's more of a solid sort of structure of a game. It'd be nice to maybe have a little whirl and try it out, but unfortunately, it ain't going to happen, is it?
Maybe not. What would you like to see the RFL implement to make the game better, or to make the development of the game better?
I'd personally, because the game has got so big and physical, as a back, I'd most probably prefer them to go to 11 players and give you more space.
Okay, yeah.
And to see how that goes. Because, again, with all COVID and they took away scrums, for me as a back, I hated that.
Yeah.
Because a scrum was a time when I could shine.
Yeah.
A scrum was a time when you had 6 players tied up and it gave us some space to have a little go and do something. And that's what I like to do. I like to run at players, use a bit of a foil or defence and try and get around them. So I think that because the game's got so tight,
Yeah.
maybe if you went to 11 players, would it give more space?
I mean, I think they've tried to implement, because obviously they've done less subs, haven't they? So when I was playing 10 years ago, it was 12 subs. It's now 8, I think.
Yeah.
So that you're limited to that, and obviously with the stop clock now for the scrums and stuff like that, it means that people aren't getting as much of a rest. And I think it is helping the game, making it more exciting towards the end of the game.
But, you know, again, you're talking to somebody who started and we had 2 subs.
Well, yeah, true.
You only had 2 subs. And that was it.
And not roll on, roll off either, just 2 subs.
Just 2 subs. Yeah.
There you go.
The subs could go back on.
Yeah.
You know,
could
go back on if somebody got injured and stuff like that. Because again, I remember at Cass, I went off because I actually, when I found out on Monday, I broke my arm. So I went off, and then for the last 20 minutes, I went back on because Mike Ford went off, and I had to go back on with my arm strapped up. You know,
tough as nails, Garry.
You know, must be.
Yeah, that's it. So obviously we said about rugby league's tough, and you learn a lot of lessons. Obviously, you've had quite a good, successful career. You know, playing Wembley a couple of times, and like I say, winning championships and stuff like that. But what was the toughest moment in your career?
It's a weird one. It's tough when you finish, in a sense.
Okay, yeah.
And you know it's coming because nobody can go on.
Yeah.
But it is sort of tough because, and again, most probably people watching this, they won't even know who I was.
Yeah.
And people quite quickly forget. And they don't, you know, I went over to OKR just before lockdown. And basically, the vast majority of people don't know who you are.
No.
And, you know, so, but as a rugby player, and they're doing very well at it now, there was nothing when I was playing. Basically, you just went, and that was it. You know? And one thing that I would recommend to, if there's any clubs going to watch, is because I think what you could do now fantastically for a player is when they leave, you just have a little bit of a, not a reception as such, but you recognise that they're leaving.
Yeah.
And because now what you can do is you could give them their heritage number as a certificate and say, thanks for your service. Here's your heritage number. Thanks for playing. See you later.
Like it.
When I left, you just left. You just went. You weren't offered a contract. That was it.
Just that little bit of something, isn't it?
Yeah. So I would say to anyone, any club, if there's a player leaving, just do a little bit. You know, if it's before the last training session or whatever, give them their heritage number, shake their hand, and thank them for the service. You know, I think that's what they should make. But I must admit, I think clubs are getting better at that now.
I agree.
It was different when we played, to be honest. In that sense, the clubs are getting very good, and they're looking after the players much better than they did before.
I think Steve McCormack's had a big job in that, I believe, at the RFL in his role.
Yeah,
it's good that
I do think that they look after players much better now.
they need to.
And it's a weird one because I know that the people that you've been involved with would do that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think they do it because they think, see you later, you're off. I think it's just part of the game. you just move on to that next season, move on to that next chapter. It just happened. You know, it wasn't necessarily, I can't say it was anyone's fault. It's just the way it progressed. You just went, and that was it.
Comes to everybody, doesn't it? Retirement. All right then. So, a couple more things then. Do you set yourself goals, or did you set yourself goals?
I did then, yeah. Back in the playing game, you've got to set yourself goals. You know, it's a weird one because, again, as a back, you can set yourself goals. You know, I want to score 12 tries this season. I want to do so many hits. I want to make so many tackles. I want to do so. And again, if you're keeping an eye on your own fitness level, you can say, I want to run that mile in 4.5 minutes, or I want to do bench press 100k or whatever it may be. So you can set yourself goals to improve yourself as a player, and you should. To be honest, every team I was involved with pre-season, you'd have goals.
Yeah.
Where you wanted to be, what you wanted to do, what you wanted to achieve. And again, because that's what did come into my game, there was much more statistics involved. You know, you'd work on your opposite player, you'd work on your opposite team, what their strengths are, weaknesses, and teams did it against us as well. That's the way that you've got to work.
And what advice would you give to a 15-year-old Garry?
To an under 15-year-old.
So a 15-year-old Garry Atkins, what would you give a 15-year-old Garry Atkins advice?
Yeah. To a 15-year-old me.
Yeah.
I think most probably would have been to listen a little bit more. Yeah, because I do think, and my teenage years weren't the best years, to be honest, where you're a little bit, you think you know it all, and you think you don't need to listen to anybody, and that would most probably be it. Maybe listen a bit more.
Yeah.
You know.
And I suppose my next question, the final question, is what advice would you give to any junior rugby league player today?
Give it your best shot. If you can give it your best shot, then you can be happy. You know, and train that little bit harder. You've got to. If you want to achieve, you've got to go that little bit extra, because everybody else will be given that little bit extra. So you have to train that little bit more than they maybe will. So, and just give it your best shot. Give it your best shot, but ultimately be happy. Enjoy the game. The game is there to be enjoyed. So you should be enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, we're struggling. You know what I mean?
Not a career.
You know, you don't really enjoy getting smashed and things like that, but that's part of the game. But you might get smashed, but you might score a few tries and win the game. So then you're all happy. So if you're giving it your best shot, having a good go, I'm sure you will be happy.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Garry. Really, really appreciate it. Like I said, you know, books are available, so put a donation towards the link, and I'll get in contact with Garry and we can sort it out. But really, really appreciate your time today and finding out more about you. It's been really interesting.
No problem.
You know,
good luck with when we can all get back together again in after lockdown.
Let's hope so. We'll catch up then.
Yeah, no problem.
Hold on. How do I stop it? Stop.